I make no promises. I have some feelings about Miyu, and not the brotherly. Wait, no, that doesn't sound right. You didn't hear that.
Welcome back, nerds. Fino here with a servant guide for Miyu Edelfelt. She's a 4-star caster coming out with the Prisma Codes rerun. Unfortunately, she has a reputation as a pretty crap servant. Does she deserve it? Let's find out. If I were to pick out a basic, by design sort of team for Miyu, this would be it. Miyu's primary contribution here is her third skill, Child of God's Wish. By the way, we don't have her official translated skill names yet, so those may differ. It's a targeted 30% charge with increased buff success rate. The second part is obviously meant for Ilya, but it works with Imperial Privilege style servants too. Of these, I think Saber Nero is the most synergistic, given her art's NP and defensive kit. Running Ilya has its advantages though. You see, Miyu's Noble Phantasm is Wish Upon the Stars. It gives her a special buff for 3 turns that charges party NP by 10% and heals based on NP level, going up to 1000. Also gives stars per turn tied to overcharge. 2 catches. One is that Miyu eats 3k damage every time she uses Wish Upon the Stars. 2 is that it heals a paltry 500 health per turn at NP 1. You need NP 5 just for it to not be a net loss of health for her. The bigger issue is short-term survivability. She may lose and gain 3k health at NP 5, but you're still taking hits in the course of a fight. And if Miyu dies, the party buff disappears. You can mitigate this risk of exploding by having her and Ilya trade third skills. Ilya gets charge and increased buff success. Miyu gets a guaranteed guts and burst heal. If you don't want to fuck with probabilities, you could always just run Xuanzang instead. She can take pressure off Miyu with her taunt and accelerate party NP gain. Wish Upon the Stars has a hideous drawback, but if 2 Miyus have their buffs up simultaneously, you can make a functional heal and NP engine, especially in combination with her own NP generation passive. While you could try running an attacker to capitalize on this, you can run a third support and try for immortality. Merlin would further accelerate your end-of-turn resources, while Castoria has a spammable party-wide super invulnerability. Both of them provide damage tools which, if necessary, Miyu can exploit with her first skill, Cheerful Model Mystic Code, Sister. It's a 3-turn personal arts buff with a 3-hit crit buff. If you have a weak turn, you can opt for skill 2, Maiden's Willpower. It gives Miyu 1 instance of Guts and debuff immunity. She revives with 2k health, and that should be enough to bounce back. If your concern is turn-to-turn damage, you can run Original Mash as your third servant. Spamming Lord Camelot should fix most of your problems on that front. Summer 5 introduces Archer Ilya, who has a skill that specifically buffs children's servants. Miyu is a valid recipient, so of course she has to come along. Oh, but we're not getting the most out of our meme mileage, are we? No. We're missing something. An Imperial Privilege servant, who's also a brat, and a quick servant. Miyu buffs Wu, Wu buffs Ilya, and Ilya buffs everyone else. One big, happy family. Just don't think too much about the sounds coming from the basement. Oh, if you're gonna make the wrong play and actually run this team, might want to put a K-scope on Miyu because you'll need to build up charge right away. For craft essences, you have some interesting options. Devilish Bodhisattva is probably the most practical. With the extra overcharge, your star income goes from 5 to 15, which is pretty solid. Really the same reasons that Merlin runs it. Next up is Prisma Cosmos to reduce downtime between NPs. Maiden Halloween amplifies healing received by a huge amount, and it's one way for a single Miyu to actually gain health from her Noble Phantasm. As a curious side note, her Bond CE gives 15% NP gain to the whole party, but as she lacks proper looping support for anyone except herself, it doesn't really give her a niche. Finally, we have Divine Princess of the Storm, which gives the party a defense buff on the death of its carrier. The way I see it, if Miyu's gonna die, she may as well do something useful. If Maiden Halloween is too much of an investment, consider Good Wife Wise Fox. This command code amplifies healing to give Miyu that extra edge. Overall, Miyu is an excessively gimped servant. I don't know if she's the worst 4-star, but she's usually on the shortlist when the subject comes up, and for good reason. Losing 3k health on using Wish Upon the Stars, in and of itself, precludes her from most practical applications. She's useless in farming scenarios, which leaves boss battles as her supposed niche. But what you have to understand is that those fights have a lot of damage flying around from turn to turn, so in most situations the odds of her spontaneously dying are just way too high to justify babysitting her. And let's not forget, you need NP 5 just for her to break even, unless you're committing even more resources to get additional healing. That's NP 5 on a one-time solo banner, on a limited servant. At that point, I'd say it's safer just to save for Merlin. He at least comes back, and at NP 1, he outputs the same healing Miyu does at NP 5. With the same star income, and he does it for 2 more turns. Really the only spot Miyu has an edge in is passive NP generation. Doesn't really balance the scales, does it? And to add insult to injury, her skills require 60 seashells in total. Because fuck you, I guess. But all that said, there is a silver lining. Miyu might suck, but the Miyu banner does have some magic in it. No, not Ilya. Magical Girl of Sapphire is the real prize as a top-tier craft essence. So in a way, there's a strong Miyu in the game, just not the servant. That's all folks, thanks for watching. Like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more, and come watch me on Twitch where I stream every weekend, Friday through Sunday at 3 PM Pacific time. Catch you there.